So today I am working on this hummingbird and I'm going to be doing wet on wet. So I begin by taking a brush with clean water and wetting down my outline. As you can see, there are some places that I'm avoiding, of course the eye, and other areas I'm not ready to paint yet, like the neck area and the wing, and of course the beak. So cleaning out my palette is something I forget to do sometimes. So realize when I'm just getting ready to mix my paint that I have not cleaned my palette. I'm starting by getting some green and putting it into my palette. I'm cleaning my brush, picking up some yellow. Didn't clean my brush quite good enough. Get a little bit of that green in my yellow, but that's okay. So you can get that out of there either with a wet brush or with a paper towel. So adding a little more yellow to that and going in and dropping that in to the water that's already in the outline. So just dropping that green in as kind of a base layer, just all down my bird there. I am leaving that belly part without any of the green. So getting a little bit of brown on my palette now and adding a good bit of water to it and a tiny bit of black. More water. I want it to be nice and light. And so going into the belly and starting to just stipple that in. And I'm going right up against that green that I put in so those two colors can kind of blend together. So drying my brush, getting now some thick green with very little water, and I am just dotting those lines onto the head of the bird. So this is again like a stippling. I'm just pushing the tip of the brush very quickly. And now of course I am just using some more like strokes to put the paint in on the body. But I want that texture to be on the head. So I'm now just trying to, with some clean water, just blend that paint a little bit better so that we don't end up with a harsh line there. And some more dark green. And I'm just, again, kind of pushing that in. And it's still wet there, so I'm just kind of pushing that into what's already there. Stippling that in. And just softening those lines with some clean water. So going in with some green that was already on my palette and stippling that into the wing. This is the lighter green color that is mixed with yellow. Or I should say, I only have one green in my palette, so it's the same green, but I make it lighter by mixing it with the yellow. So there I'm just taking some more green, and it's pretty thick now, not very watery, not mixed with yellow, and putting in some of those feather details on the wing. So a little more of that very watery brown mixed with black, and I'm just putting that on those longer feathers on the wing there. So back to some dark green to put in some feather detail. So again, just keep, I'm just redipping, getting some thick green and redoing those feather details. There I've got some clean water, and I'm just blurring those lines out a little bit, just making them a little softer. I don't want to completely erase them, I just don't want them to be hard lines. So going in with, again, some of that green that I have mixed with yellow, and brushing just a very light layer of that onto the tail. So now just going in and getting some thick green and a little bit of brown mixed with it, and going along that tail again on the edge there. Now going in and adding some feather detail on the tail. And just softening some of those lines. So cleaning and drying my brush, and going into some red. Now, I did decide after I did this red to change what I did a little bit, which you will see. So, I'm not sure exactly what happened here as I'm looking at my drawing. If I took my green, which I think is what I did, I think I took my green when I first put this on a little too far to the left, and so I decided then that I wanted to change the way I did the neck. So I went in with the red and stippled it on, trying to leave some white spaces there between my brush strokes, between my stippling. So just going back and forth, going up and down, stippling that. So a little orange there, and I'm tapping that in to the red now. A little more orange. Bringing that down a little bit underneath the red, trying to kind of get those two to mix. This is where I am, let's see. So I'm getting some red mixed with a little orange. Yes, this is where I've decided that I should not have taken that green quite as far over as I did, and because I wanted that red to extend a little more. So there I'm just going right over top the green and fixing that. And tapping some more orange in to the red, and tapping a little more red in as well. Picking up more red and just stippling that color around. Again, cleaning and drying my brush. And there I'm softening some lines that were there. So picking up some more of that very light color and mixing up some more of it there, adding just a little more brown to it. But it was the watery, very watery black and brown, and I put just a touch more brown in it because the color was a little too light, so just put a touch more brown in with that watery black and brown mixture and applied it to the wing again. So there I'm getting some black and brown and mixing those two together. It still isn't extremely dark. There was still some water there, so it's not an extremely thick mix. It is darker than it was before, as you can see, because I am putting on the wing details with it. So getting some green here. And I'm dotting that onto the head. Again, I'm using the stippling motion to try and get some detail there. But I am, as you can see, letting some of that lighter color show through it. Now I'm moving on and working on the edge of the beak there. You might want to make sure your red is dry so you don't get any red bleeding into that area. So we have green, and I'm mixing it with a little bit of black. And going in and working that area that touches up against the beak. And adding a little bit of that detail around the eye. Stippling a little more on the forehead there. So washing my brush again, getting some brown, mixing it with some black. And adding just a touch of purple to another area on my palette there. I'm sorry, that's not purple, that's dark blue. And then I'm mixing the black with that blue that I put on my palette. So I've got a mixture of the black and the blue, and I'm going into the bottom of the beak. So picking that color back up there, that black and that blue. And adding that along the top of the beak there. So there I've got some clean water on my brush, and I am just going over those lines on that wing to soften that a little bit. Now I am getting a little bit of that very watered down black and brown mix, and I'm stippling that onto the belly to add some details there. So then I'm getting some clean water, and I'm kind of just going in and stippling that clean water onto the belly, and you can see that really blurs that nicely, so it's just not as harsh that way. Getting some of that dark color that I had mixed up before. I'm just adding that in certain places along the bird here. Going in here with some black mixed with some dark blue, and painting in the eye and leaving that white space for that shine. Mixing some purple there with some black. Mostly black though, just going for a nice dark color and doing the feet. So going into that dark that I had before, that green mixed with some black, and stippling in a little more detail. And then I wiped some of that off my brush, and I'm just kind of using a mostly clean brush to move that around a little, stipple it a little more. So back into that color, that dark, that green with the black, that kind of dark green that I made. And actually decided to just pick up some black and go back over that eye. Sometimes it takes a few layers. That's the thing with watercolor. It dries lighter than you put it on. So you often have to go in and layer up. And that's it for this little guy. He's done.